Nice to see you.
So am I the third yet, or are we more into it?
Third.
Wow,
The third.
you kept count.
Oh goodness, hard acts to follow, I'm sure. I mean, there is. I guess it is why I was very aware that I wanted to make a very clear physical and emotional change in the character, because we do such a fast cut, 5 years, that I didn't want it to appear like, oh, it's the 5 years of being a doddle. But it's like the life expectancy of a slave back then in the galley of a slave ship would have been between 3 and 6 months, they said. Like, to last through 5 years would have been absolutely brutal. Like, I lost 30 pounds for that part of the movie. I went down through it. It was and it was very much the way he moves, the way he said. Before Judah, when I was early on, he was a very open, happy, sort of like, it was a sweet human being who was going through a lot emotionally, personally, but this was the hardened, I want to say slave who's been through. I can't even imagine what it would have been like 5 years of emotion. So it was a very conscious decision to try and almost change everything. That was from my voice to the way I looked, the way I moved, the way I held myself. It was a very conscious sort of decision to try to go there. So
The kid though.
it was a real honour. I think everything starts with a script, and I'm a big lover of the 59 version. Like, I adore that film. It's one of my earliest memories watching it, and Charlton Heston's performance, I think, is incredible. I actually know the family rather well and stuff, so, actually Fraser Heston, his son, is coming to the premiere on Tuesday.
Oh,
which is nice. So it's like it's a very personal thing for me. I read a script and I felt instantly that this is not a remake, that this was very much its own being. It was with homage too, obviously, but it was very much its own story, and the character was so different that I felt, oh, there's a real reason to be making this movie today, especially for a modern audience. As much as I loved the 59 version, there was, you're not going to get people in to see 3 hours and 45 minutes of a movie today. It's like we've managed to get ours to 2 hours, and it's tight, and it's got all of the emotional punch and resonance that we wanted it to have. But at the same time, the way I approached the character, I thought, was the way Keith Clark and John really wrote this beautiful script that, as an actor, you're looking for great characters. You'd be hard pressed to find a better character than Judah. It's really one of those characters that says, oh, I can go on a journey here. Like, I can start one place and I end somewhere completely different. And everything in between is, I knew it was going to be physically and emotionally the hardest thing I've ever done. And I love that. I was like, I come from a family of risk takers and doing rather sort of mad things. And that was, to me, one of those beautiful calculated risks. I said, this is something I have to do. This is one of those characters I've been waiting to play. And like I said, Judah, he's where he begins, he's rather a lost child. He's a bit of a, he's trying to keep the peace. He's a Jewish prince. He lives in his bubble, in this sort of air that, by not doing anything, he's sort of staying apart from everything because he doesn't want to get involved. And he's going through questions with God, with station, with society, with religion, every single thing. And I found that really interesting because I think there's it was asking really interesting questions that through the betrayal, my whole point is where he ends up at the end of this movie is not, people talk about this being, moments of, I'm not in any way religiously inclined. I'm a spiritual person. I don't feel one way or the other. I'm about humanity and the good of humans and what we can do. And then I realized that this story was so relevant today. And it's amazing because the book was written 130 years ago and it's based 2,000 years ago, and then you look at it and you realize, wow, the world hasn't changed that much. This shit is, sorry to say, it's still going on, and I want people to know there's another way that isn't anger and hate, because that just crushes your soul. And this fear that's been instilled in us, there's religious wars, political wars, all this stuff happening, but we're so quick to sort of judge and to go on these sort of, crazy, vengeful sort of like, moments. But now it's nice to be able to say that there is a way which is forgiveness and hope and reconciliation and kindness, maybe the most important one, of just the simple acts of kindness that they matter, and that we are very capable of doing that kind of stuff. And I feel like that's a lot from what you see, what Judah goes throughout this whole movie.
Right.
It's lovely to see that the most emotional part for me, not being a religious person, was the moment where I let go of the rock, because I'd just been through so much already making that movie that rock, that wasn't in the script. That came naturally to me and the team were talking. Like, I just, when the centurion whips me and I pick up the rock, I said, I don't want to let go of the rock. So he says, don't. And then when it finally came to the crucifixion, I was up there, I just said, I just feel suddenly like I want to let go of this rock. And he said, do it. And everything just flooded out of me. Because it's that moment where you're realizing, releasing all this hatred, all this anger, and how freeing that is for you. It's a roller coaster of emotions. And yeah, I mean, it's just one of those characters that I got to really experience some amazing things.
What would you say?
Yeah, it's like I said, driven by hatred. I said he was a lover before. He was a man just who wanted, and it's amazing what life and circumstance, can do to you. And we go on very, very, very sort of like, clear paths in our life, like we choose something, but sometimes something happens completely unexpected, something you have no control over, and it dictates the new path or something, that you will now be on for X amount of time, or whatever it is. It's just nice to know that I wanted, he's as confused as anyone. That's the most. I think it's lovely to go on a journey with someone who's actually going on a journey with themselves, and I found this one of those characters that I was. And we were on set. That was the lovely thing, is that one of the most beautiful collaborations. Like, Tina is such a wonderfully collaborative director, and we had the lovely studio who was so behind us and were open to everything, that we were always having conversations, and we were discovering things within the stories within the story every day. It was like it was one of those moments that, people say, oh, I had to. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but it was the most rewarding thing I'd ever done.
You had that.
Well, it's a really interesting story. I went up for the role of Masada to begin with. That was, I auditioned for Masada, and Timur were very sneakily and brilliantly, this is so him as well to do, because you find out much later, you're like, oh, that's kind of great, man. He let me audition for it and go in and talk about the role, and then I got a call saying, I think you're Judah, would you come do that? And then I did it, and then later he told me the great thing about me doing Judah, was I loved Masada. The way I spoke about Masada, the way I understood the character, that Judah needed to feel that love for Masada, for it to build that foundation throughout the movie. Because if it's going to come back at the very end, you need to believe in that solidarity between those two brothers, that real love. And then I had Toby, who's one of the great actors and is now a dear friend of mine, and we trained together, like on the horses. That puts you together in such a way, and we would talk and go out for dinner and really get into it. And we wanted to bring this natural element to our relationship. It was really, I say times change, but people don't, We still love, we still hate, we still feel the feelings that we ever did. And I said, between these two guys, I didn't want it to be one of those stodgy sort of like sword and sandal movies. I wanted it to be very natural, like very relatable for a modern audience, that this is still two guys who are like best friends and brothers. Like, so we worked very hard on that, but luckily it was quite a natural reaction we both had.
The Bible there.
Yeah, that was very, Cinecitta anyway is one of those places that anyone would be lucky to film at. And in Rome, amazing. It was, you feel the history. I really felt it was something very, it was like a big hug being there in that sort of way. It gave me, I'd say, a little more drive every day, that you can't help but feel someone's watching over you sometimes, and that I felt like it was like a bit of a pat on the back, and like he was sort of, the kind of risk I reckon he would have taken and done what he did. So I felt honoured to be there and filming that.
Were you really underwater for that?
Oh yeah. I would do it. We get a guy. I said, listen, just pull me, deep, just get me, because they'd have divers. So they just grabbed my ankle, and I had a certain point I pushed them away. So they just pulled me down. I do my nose do like that, and I just be down as deep as I could do it. We did it, and a lot of it was out at sea, by the way, and it was still winter when we were out there. So the sea was out at sea, freezing. So I did a lot of the stuff down in the sea, going down, coming up, and then we went into a plunge pool, deep pool, to get that thing to get actually them pulling me under. That was nuts. It was crazy. It was like, it was wet. To go in open-minded and experience what I got to experience, and we've had such a beautiful reaction to the movie so far, and the people who really have reacted, like the way it was such an amazing experience for me and for everyone making this movie, and I believe the script is really one of those, like I said, very relevant for today, and I really want people to, if they can walk away and do something good, you know, and how easy it is, you know, how easy it is. This is just a weird side note, sometimes in life, someone without them knowing it will do a little act of kindness when you're really down or something really bad happens. Someone just does something small, even though it's small, they don't even know they've done it, but that will stay with you forever, and it's amazing how I can still think back at those little moments. So I said, it's funny, this faith, no faith, you know what I mean? Like me, you know, just believe in the good of humanity, and that actually we could do a little something now and again. That
Thank
was
you
simple.
guys.
Let's pay it
Thank you
forward.
so
Hey,
much.
pay it forward, brother. That's
Yeah.
it. Well said. Well said.